Salutations, one and all, and welcome to RWBY Revisited. In this entry, let's examine whether or not the main cast should utilize lethal force against their opponents. Please be aware that spoilers for all seasons will follow, and any material revealed or expounded upon in outside sources will not be weighted as heavily as that seen in the show. Now, this is an issue that's been debated in numerous series. Some people will insist that protagonists should never kill their opponents, while others say that it doesn't make any sense for them not to. Across shows, movies, games, and books, this is a debate that's been going on for decades. So I'm going to weigh in on it here. Obviously, these are just my observations, and by no means the be-all end-all. Please feel free to agree or disagree as you see fit. Let's just keep things civil, okay? Great. Let's look at the first side of this coin. The ones who believe that our main cast shouldn't kill under any circumstances. The thought behind this sentiment is generally that those who hold it want our protagonists to be better than that. To take the moral high road, they see killing their opponents as immoral. This is typically restricted to human and faunus lives, as Grimm are confirmed to not have souls and are not intelligent enough to be reasoned with, being simple entities that seek to cause death. I can empathize with this stance, but can it be done with the circumstances that exist within the setting? Well, let's examine how this has been done in other media. Certain superheroes are known for either never killing their opponents, or doing so very infrequently. But this in and of itself warrants examination. What about Superman? He very rarely kills his opponents, as he typically wants to leave control of Earth to humanity. If he interfered with his godlike power at every turn, then that would break the rules he set for himself. This makes sense. Green Lanterns typically resort to lethal force when other options have been exhausted, as they're essentially police officers, just on a much larger scale. They have rules and regulations that must be followed. Again, in that context, this makes sense. But one that has always rubbed me the wrong way is Batman. He deals with murderous psychopaths and sociopaths that will slaughter innocents by the dozen on a regular basis. More than that, it has been shown that all methods of containment and attempts to reform these villains are ineffective, and yet, Batman refuses to kill them. In most media, Batman will go to ridiculous lengths to ensure that he doesn't kill, but given the lack of results this produces, this puts any further evil that his enemies do on his hands. Imagine if you lived in or around Gotham and the Joker killed someone you cared about in one of his stunts. Batman has had numerous opportunities to kill the Joker and prevent this from happening, but has chosen not to do so. Would you still consider him to be a hero? I certainly wouldn't. It brings up the old adage of his, if you kill a killer, then the number of killers in the world hasn't changed. Well, the context has. You kill that killer so that he does not kill more people. So this brings us back to RWBY. If our main cast of characters were to have the stipulation of refusing to kill any human or faunus that aligns with Salem, then what other option does that leave? The target would then need to be subdued, which is much more difficult than eliminating, and then put in a position where they can do no further harm. Those are luxuries that just aren't on the table in most situations. What's more, not everyone can be reasoned with into ceasing their nefarious ways. Does anyone believe that someone like Tyrion could be swayed with appeals to his morality? Watts was fully on board with destroying the world because Ironwood picked Pietro's project over his. That's not the sort of person who's going to capitulate when informed that their actions will harm the innocent. Ironwood should have ended him when he had the chance. Neo has shown time and time again that she not only will cause chaos, but that she enjoys doing so. The look of glee on her face when she brings pain to those that have done nothing to her speaks volumes as to how she has no desire to repent. Even the Curious Cat in Season 9 showed how this will be turned against those who won't end their opponents. When Team RWBY is about to leave him after he'd been beaten, his first act was to try to attack them again. Had it not been for Neo's desire for revenge, he would have done exactly that. These foes are far too dangerous to let run free, and what other method is there to ensure that they can't cause further harm? You can't lock them in a cell if you're nowhere near a cell to lock them in. Even if you could, if they're valuable enough to Salem, she'll find a way to get them back. Now, this isn't to say that such drastic measures should be taken in every instance. Should Cardin be game over just because he's a scumbag? No, but some kinetic energy applied swiftly to his head and torso would probably do him some good. Though indeed, something that's bothered me for a while is the negligent discharge of many characters' weapons. They often use them as a means of propulsion, but without confirming that there isn't anyone in that direction. Rule 1 of gun safety is that you always confirm that there's no one on the other end of the barrel. Auralist civilians could easily be hurt or killed with this maneuver. This does lead me to how sometimes the series leads itself into action sequences that more realistically should have been handled a different way. Yes, I'm mentioning realism in a show with insane physics. That doesn't mean that we abandon logic entirely. In Season 2, Torchwick pursues Blake and Sun in a stolen Atlassian Paladin. This was clearly done in service to the action sequence that follows, but running down the highway in your stolen mech not only increases the chances that you'll damage it, but also exposes you blatantly. Not his best plan. This surely resulted in the deaths or severe injuries of those in the vehicles thrown from the freeway. Can the main cast be blamed for this? It's debatable. It was stupid for Roman to chase Blake and Sun with the Paladin, but they did lead it to the highway. The hope might have been that such blatant action would have made him break off, but it didn't. He was insane enough to move directly onto the highway, and thus numerous people were likely killed. Blake and Sun are inadvertently connected to this. They didn't kill those people, but they did bring the danger there. Another dubious scenario was when Weiss threw the two guards out of the airship in Argus. She did deploy a parachute for them, but if they were over water, then that very well could have caused them to drown. Do you know how heavy wet clothes can get? Now imagine that being the size of a parachute. That very well could get soaked and drag them down with it. I'll dismiss this as probably not the case, as the entire point of the sequence was to show that the two guards weren't seriously injured, but the point stands. There was also the confrontation with the Aesops. This sequence was probably why characters started falling unconscious when their aura was broken, as Team RWBY opted to fight them rather than flee. That should have resulted in more Atlas troops arriving and apprehending Team RWBY, but Weiss very nearly impaled Marrow in one instance. In another moment, after RWBY severed Tyrion's stinger, all the others just let him run off. Yes, Crow was injured, but Nora, Ren, and RWBY could easily have shot at him as he retreated. It was only by sheer luck that he didn't show up later to finish the job. And lo and behold, he simply got a replacement for it later, meaning that the damage RWBY inflicted was for naught. There's no guarantee that they could have killed him, but if they had managed to drop him as he ran away, then he wouldn't have been able to kill those people in Atlas later. Then there's the biggest instance, in which Blake and Yang kill Adam. Some have said that he should have been apprehended instead, but there's just no way such a thing was feasible given the situation. He was out for blood, and there was no way to subdue him. Cordovan was another obstacle, refusing to grant the cast transport. If they were to tell her the nature of the relic, she could either not believe them, or possibly spread the knowledge of it, whether deliberately or accidentally. This means that the cast had to act quickly to find a way to get to Atlas. The longer the relic stayed in Argus, the more danger that it brought on. Side note, the Grimm being attracted to the relics seems to have fallen off as a concept as the series went on. Some have also declared that it should have been more of an emotional moment for Yang and Blake, but that's highly contextual. Firstly, there wasn't much time for any breakdowns there. Doing so would have put the plan in jeopardy. Second, people react differently to trauma. If I was Yang, I'd have been overjoyed at getting rid of the one that lopped my arm off. But that's just me. Some people might be haunted by the experience, but again, different people will react differently. Blake was clearly afraid for her life. That's not typically something that lends empathy to the one causing such a reaction.
Do it.
So, in short, Lethal Force probably shouldn't be the first choice of the main cast, but it shouldn't be entirely off the table either. As far as Salem's agents go, a dead one can't help her much. But I would like to thank you for watching. I asked and you answered. I will continue to create RWBY Revisited videos for the foreseeable future, so long as your interest holds. Even though RWBY may not be continuing, there are still aspects that can be analyzed for its sake and for other stories as well. So leave a like on this video if you're so inclined, and subscribe to see more. Do you think that the main cast should be allowed to finish off their opponents? Or is that going too far? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and may you all have a weapon in each hand.